Hi beautiful, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I wanted to do a review and wear test on these two face products right here from Makeup Revolution or Revolution. So I have here the Revolution Fast Base Foundation and it comes in 14 shades and I have the shade F10. Now this one retails for $14 and I will link the website where I got it from. So this is what F10 looks like. To be honest with you, looking at it from the tube, it kind of looks light on my skin, but then when I applied it on my first impression, it melted into my skin and matched my skin tone perfectly. I really wanted to put this foundation to the test to see if this will last on my oily skin. And as for concealer, I have the Revolution Conceal and Define. This one comes in 25 shades and I got the shade C85. I'm not gonna lie, the shade that I picked up is way too light than my skin tone. I could have picked up maybe C10 or 11 perhaps, but for the sake of this review, this will do for now. My opinion might change once I put these two products to the test. I have already moisturized my skin, so I'm going to apply a primer and I'm just going to use the ordinary high adherence silicone primer. I just want my pores to mainly disappear. So this fast base foundation quickly perfects, contours and highlights your complexion. It's the easy to apply stick formula that melts into the skin, blending seamlessly to leave a fresh and dewy finish. Now, speaking of dewy finish, I feel like it has more of a natural finish on my skin tone personally when I first tried it. F10 describes as a shade for medium skin tones with golden undertone. The formula is very creamy. It doesn't really say how many grams it comes with. It just says the shade there and the serial number, and this is what the foundation looks like. It's sort of matching on my skin tone, but as you can see it has a little bit of a pinky beige undertone, which I don't really understand, but then once I applied it on my skin it actually matches perfectly. So what I'm going to do is to just swipe that on my face. And I am barely touching this foundation on my skin, but it's very creamy, which is bizarre because usually stick foundations would have a tug to it, and I have a massive cystic acne on that area there, and also this one. On my first impression, I actually quite like the product when applied with brush as opposed to applying it with a sponge, because I find that this kind of formula, it gives more movement and it blends better if you use a brush, because the sponge soaks up majority of the product and it doesn't really spread throughout the face. So what I'm going to do is to just use this e.l.f. powder brush. So the coverage is actually fairly decent. I'd say it's a medium coverage compared to this side right here. It pretty much covered majority of my scars and it blended into the skin seamlessly. So I'm going to do the same on the other side. So this is here with one layer and it did a pretty good job at covering the redness on my cystic acne right here. My coverage on this side is medium. You can still see a little bit of darkness on my scarring, but overall it blended pretty smoothly. The coverage is fairly decent. So what I'm going to do is to actually apply another layer, and I'm going to use the sponge to press in the product. I think I'm quite happy with that kind of coverage. The coverage is now solid medium, though I could definitely build it to full coverage, but then as of the moment I think I'm fine with this kind of coverage. It has a more of a satin finish on my skin. It doesn't feel heavy, though I could definitely feel like a little bit of product on my face. This concealer was great, but then I find that it settled into my fine lines. I think it's because I didn't apply eye cream beforehand. So it comes in a huge doe foot applicator. People are comparing this to Tarte Shape Tape. I personally don't have that, so I wouldn't know the difference. As you can see, the shade is a little bit too light, but I actually quite like it as a brightener. It has a creamy formula. It has, I think, a full coverage on based on my first impression, but I could not tell because of the shade. Usually super bright shades on my skin, especially in my dark circles, it kind of brightens it, but at the same time it kind of highlights the darkness, especially on the inner part of my eye. So we'll see how this goes, but this concealer definitely blends very smoothly. So this is what the concealer looks like. As you can see, it definitely brightened this area right here, though the inner part of my eyes are still quite dark, so I could definitely use a few more layers of concealer, but overall it blended out pretty great. It has like a medium coverage, but for the most part, it's a great concealer. It blends beautifully. You get a lot of work time. And the finish is not entirely matte. It has like a sheen to it, which is really good. It doesn't make your under eyes very cakey. So I'm going to go with a few more dots just on the inner part of my eyes because I feel like it didn't really conceal that area. It did went in my fine lines though, so this is the type of concealer that you have to really set straight away, or if it helps you could actually bake a little bit of translucent powder underneath just to prevent the creasing. But as you can see, my eyes are already creasing. It actually feels kind of lightweight on the skin. It gave me somewhat a medium to full coverage. I love the fact that it comes in 25 shades, so you could use this concealer as a highlighter and contour as well. So what I'm going to do is to actually set one eye at a time. And I will set the rest of my face as well. This is what my face looks like after I set all of it. My under eyes are set, but I find that the creasing is still there. I can't really fix it that much anymore because I don't want my under eyes to go real cakey. As for the foundation, it looks a lot better when set with translucent powder. It doesn't feel heavy or like that kind of grease feeling anymore. It feels very lightweight. It feels like my skin, and I love the way it looks once it was set with powder. So I feel like setting it with translucent powder will make a huge difference. So what I'm going to do is to actually do my face off camera, and I'll come back to you to do the check-in and initial thoughts. Hi beautiful, I do apologize for the robe. I just have to put it on because it's cold outside, and also I just finished cooking dinner. So the time right now is 4:32 p.m. and we're almost into our 5-hour mark. Looking at my face, I am definitely shiny in my forehead. Not so much around the cheek area. It's just like a sheen, so I could easily get away with it. And the chin area is a little bit shiny as well, but anywhere else, the coverage is still pretty good. Nothing moved around or caked up. It surprisingly looks a lot better now that I've worn it for a couple of hours as opposed to me wearing this straight after the application. I don't really see anything that oxidized. The concealer, it definitely sunk into my fine line, so I'm not entirely sure if that concealer is like great. I feel like it all comes down to how I prep my eyes, but the coverage around this area right here, which is usually my main problem, it definitely is very covered and it looks pretty matte, which is amazing except for the parts where my lines are creasing. But for 5 hours of wear, it's actually not that bad. So what I'm going to do is to actually blot my face with a beauty blender. And this is what my face looks like. For the most part, it looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do is to wear this for probably 4 more hours. The time right now is 8:58 p.m. and I have worn this foundation for around 9 hours and a bit, and I must say that it actually held up pretty good. Within 5 hours I touched up, and then since then I have never touched up my face. And looking at the makeup, I obviously have oils around the forehead area and the cheek area, but for the most part the coverage is still there. Nothing really oxidized extremely or caked up at all, though like the chin area has rubbed off a little bit because I kind of leaned on my chin. I feel like this foundation actually exceeded my expectation. When I was doing the first impression, I actually said that it won't hold up, especially because of the fact that it's very creamy against my oily skin. I could see myself wearing this if I'm going to run errands or if I'm just gonna quickly go out and come back, but definitely not on the long wearing side of things. For concealer, it's definitely long wearing. It's still there, though I have like creasing that is still there around my under eyes. The concealer actually did a really good job in holding up on the coverage, especially the under eye area, which I actually like because I have really dark circles. For a stick foundation, I actually highly recommend this. For the concealer, I would probably go out and buy the right shade because this one is probably 3 to 4 shades lighter than my actual skin tone, and it's great for brightening, but for me it's just the tone that is a bit off. I actually quite like the doe foot applicator, though it doesn't really pick up a lot of product, but that doesn't really bother me because at the end of the day the main purpose of concealer is to conceal our blemishes, dark spots, or whatever we want to conceal in our face. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel for more updates, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye!